I am Franklin, one of the co-founders of NorCal SCI, which stands for Northern California Spinal Cord Injury Foundation. Welcome. It's 5 minutes past 11 California time, so we're ready to get started. Thanks for joining us this morning on what's going to be an incredible day of learning, or hour of learning, with a couple of really good friends and especially knowledgeable individuals with who have a ton of experience working with the spinal cord injury population. Our meeting is going to go for just about an hour. Rachel and Erin's presentation is about 50 minutes or so, and therefore we'll have about 10 minutes towards the end for a Q&A session. And we're going to hold off on all the questions until the very end, but you could feed them to me through the chat button on your screen, and Erin and Rachel will be sure to address them. And if we run out of time, they're going to leave their contact information with you, and you could reach out to them directly if you need. So why don't we get started? Again, today's session is going to be on revitalizing reset, mindful movement, meditation, and self-release techniques for SCI. And I'm really happy to have both Rachel and Erin who have agreed to take part in this series of 6 sessions, hopefully at least 6. Which are part of NorCal SCI's Virtual is a New Reality series that has been funded through a grant by the Reeve Foundation. So a quick intro to Rachel and Erin. Rachel is a nationally certified Pilates teacher, a certified strength and conditioning specialist, and is currently pursuing her license for massage therapy. Erin has a doctorate of physical therapy and is board certified neurological clinical specialist. She's currently a physical therapist at UC San Francisco and also a co-founder of No Limits Collaborative, and has worked extensively with the SCI population. Truly, both of them have worked a ton of hours with the SCI population. So I'm just thrilled that they've been able to put together a series of 6 sessions. And these are going to be happening over the next 6 months or so. So we're looking forward to that. And without further ado, I'll turn things over to Rachel. Rachel, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All righty. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Maybe before we do the screen share, we'll just give just another quick intro of Erin and I. First of all, Franklin, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. It's unique in that it's not just a movement or an exercise class, which is what we've been seeing, but we have the educational component in this as well, which is I'm really excited about because it's something that what I'm hoping is you can all take and apply to whatever you're doing at home or outside or in your daily activities. So this is, Franklin, thank you again. This is super exciting. So I've been doing this work with this population for people who have spinal cord injuries and other neurological disabilities for about 8 years now. And Franklin, thank you for that intro. That was sweet. And this series that we'll be teaching is, there's a flow to it. So I'm hoping that people might see something they like and come to that session, but I'm also hoping that if you're coming to all 6 of these sessions, you're going to see the natural progression and the natural flow and how they all kind of interrelate. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm just gonna, before I get going, I'm just gonna have Erin introduce herself real quick.
Everybody, thank you so much for coming today. Like Rachel said, we're super excited for this opportunity. Just in the midst of being separated from your friends, your family, not being able to access your normal routines, access your gym, just having a way to kind of all connect today and come up with creative things that you can do in your home. So we hope you tune in for this session today and then other sessions in the future. And yeah, huge thanks to Franklin for this opportunity. And I'm going to be in the background today, but let us know your questions. And if we run out of time at the end, we can answer them moving forward. So I'm going to tee it off to, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and Erin and everyone, we are recording all of these sessions, so they will be made available on an on-demand basis. Our purpose is really to create a library of content specifically for the SCI population. So hopefully you'll stick around for the whole hour, but if something comes up and you need to leave, don't feel like you're going to miss out on anything because the on-demand version will be made available on Tuesday of next week. Okay. Thanks again, Erin and Rachel. Back to you.
All right.
Awesome. Alrighty. So let me share my screen with everybody. Just give me 1 sec here. Let's see. Okay. You just jumped right ahead. Okay, awesome. Erin, can I maybe just get a thumbs up? Can you see just that first slide? Great. Okay. Alrighty. So we'll kind of jump right into things here, but I want to give just a quick explanation. We have people of all abilities here today, and that will be viewing this later on. So how you'll see I set up when we're walking through some of the self-release techniques and the meditations and some of the movements is I'll start at kind of a basic level, and then I'll layer on for those of you that are standing athletes, for those of you that are ambulatory and whatnot. So if there's any kind of thing that we do today where the progression doesn't fit you or isn't accessible, please hold on to that question and make sure that you ask us after, because I want you to leave today with tools that are immediately accessible for you that you could do tonight, you could do tomorrow morning, and you know how to do them. So please let me know if I leave any modifications out that aren't super accessible to you. Yeah, and let's get going. Alrighty, so what is mindful movement? So mindful movement, kind of similar to what it describes, is movement done with full awareness. You are fully engaged, you are in it, you are thinking about your body, you're aware of any sensations that are coming up. I really love this picture because I think nobody embodies mindful movement better than children. They, you know, first off, I love kids and kids are the cutest, but I love this picture because who doesn't love the parachute game? And the kids that are throwing this parachute up and the kids that are running underneath, that's all they're thinking about. They're thinking about how can I get this parachute as high as I can and how can I run under as quick as I can. There's a sense of play, there's a sense of exploration, there's a targeted goal that they have. So yeah, I love this picture to really be able to drop into your body and kind of zone out. So right now these kids aren't thinking about their to-do list, they're not thinking about their financial situation or the stressors in their life, they're just focused on this activity. So being able to really, really drop into that, and it doesn't mean it's a constant state, your mind is going to wander, but being able to pull it back in and really stay with what your body is feeling and the movements that you're doing can be a really beneficial thing. I also just want to invite in the fact that I think a lot of folks on here today, dropping into their body might not be a super positive experience for them. I have one client that I was working with pre-COVID who didn't want to drop into the sensations of her body because it wasn't comfortable, because there was pain and all of this stuff. So I want to invite in, even for those folks, to maybe localize where their brain is going. So if we're doing an overhead movement or if we're just doing something like breathing, to just stay in that area of the body if other areas of your body are feeling uncomfortable. And if this doesn't apply to you, awesome. Then you're doing a full body scan and you're trying to get in touch with as much of your inner body as you can. I also just want to invite in one more thing for today's session. For those of you that maybe don't have full sensation, wherever that might be, whether it's on a body half or upper lower, I want to invite in a sense of curiosity for you. So thinking to yourself, as I'm talking you through some of these movements and meditations, if I could sense X, Y, Z, what might that feel like for me? Okay, so instead of just saying, oh no, I can't feel my feet, I can't feel my left arm, just inviting in more of a sense of curiosity and seeing what that brings up for you. So yeah, that is where we'll go with that. So yes, so thinking about your body position, setting an intention for your movement practice and for your day-to-day life, visualizing, which we'll get into a little bit, setting up your environment to help you succeed in whatever that means for you. Okay, so we're going to be doing a check and a recheck, or if you've heard me, if you come to some of my other classes, you might hear me say a test, retest. So what this is it's a self-assessment tool. It's a series of movements, and you can pick one, or you can pick three, or you can do all of them, where you're kind of taking a self-inventory of how the body is feeling, how your body might be feeling during some of these movements. So we're going to do this in the beginning of the session, and then we're going to do this at the very end of the session, and just see what changed for you. So I have some examples up there. So I'm just going to invite everybody, and we're going to get into the meditation piece a little bit more, but I'm just going to have everyone close their eyes if they feel comfortable with that, and just drop into their body for a sec. And let's maybe start with the breath. And just noticing, remember, you're not judging, you're just noticing where your breath is. Is it in your neck? Is it in your chest? Is it in your low belly? Can you feel that breath into the ribs at all? And you're just noticing, and you're maybe also noticing what the state of your nervous system is. If you were rushing to get here, maybe you feel a little flustered, or maybe you feel pretty grounded right now. So just taking note of that, not judging, just taking note. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the eyes. So for those of you that are able to do some of these movements, we'll do some of these movements. Otherwise, I just want you staying with your breath and noticing any sensations that you can in your head, your neck, and your breath. Okay, so we'll all just start with the shoulder shrug. Okay, so shrugging the shoulders up as high as you can and down. And you can bring that into a circle if you'd like, or you can just go straight up and down. But you're just noticing range of motion, how high and how low can I elevate and depress the shoulders? Does this cause any pain? Is it easeful? Is it crunchy? Is one side higher than the other? You can even look at your shoulders if you need to, okay? So you're just noticing a whole array of whatever might be coming up for you. And then we're gonna back up a little bit. We're gonna do an overhead arm raise, again, if you're able to. And you're noticing all the same kinds of things: speed of movement, ease of movement, range of motion. Does one arm get higher than the other? Is there discomfort there? Okay, so you're just noticing. And then we're going to try a shoulder internal and external movement. So you're going to have your hands in a goalpost position and just pivoting your hands around your elbows, up and down. And it's okay if this is a small range of movement. It's okay if the elbows are a little bit lower, but you're just noticing. And I actually have to look at myself when I do this one. Okay, let's see, my left is getting further back than my right. You're just taking note, okay? So then we'll do cervical rotation. So seated where you are. For those of you that have maybe a fusion of some type for your neck, this one might not be for you. Otherwise, we're going to turn just the head to the right as far as you can go, and then turn the head just to the left. And again, you're just noticing all of those same things that we were talking about: range and ease, and maybe even speed. Okay. Next one, we're going to do thoracic rotation. So hands are going to come out in front of you. If it's hard for bringing your hands out in front of you, you can just leave your hands on your lap, or you can cross them over your chest. And you're going to turn from the very center of your chest and rotate to your right. How far do you get? Is it hard for you to breathe? Does it cause any discomfort anywhere? And you're just going to rotate left to right and just take note of how far you're going for each of these. How does it feel in your body? Okay. For those of you that are my standing athletes today, you could be doing a squat. So you can either have a chair or a counter in front of you, or a walker if you need support. Okay, so just coming up and down, noticing what's coming up for your body. You could even do a single leg balance, again, with safety, with as much support as you need. If you're on the floor, if you're one of my floor athletes, you could be doing a push-up on the floor of some sort, or a bridge, or something like that. Okay, so again, you're just noticing for whatever, my seated, my standing athletes, my floor athletes, you're just noticing what's going on in your body with all of those movements. Okay, so why is this important? So when we listen to our body, we're increasing the amount of sensory input that's coming into our system. Okay, so what I mean by sensory input is we're taking in the outside, a couple things. We're taking in signals from the outside world, whether that's through our 5 senses plus, or we're taking in the information from our inside world. What's going on in my body? Does my neck feel a little stiff today? Does it feel hard to breathe? Am I having a hard time getting my shoulder overhead? So the more sensory input that we can sense and send to our brain, therefore sending to our brain, the more efficient our motor output is going to be, meaning the more efficient our movement is going to be. And that can be with daily tasks, that could be with your movement practice or your exercise if you have one. So we want to be increasing as much sensory input in the inside of their body and through the outside of our body in order to create this more efficient movement motor output. That also is really important with safety. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I personally have some days where I'm extra clumsy, or I'm running into everything, or I'm dropping things. Those are usually the days where I'm flustered and maybe a little stressed out. So for safety and efficiency, again, the more sensory input and the more we can listen to our body, the better we're going to be able to move in the world. Yes, and then visualization. So visualization is a really big piece of this here. Whether or not you have access to certain parts of your body or certain movements that you're trying to do or certain tasks that you're trying to do, visualization can be a big helper with this. So the study done, which is the very bottom there, shows that although through visualization, we're not necessarily increasing our muscle mass, we're not hypertrophying the muscles, we are recruiting and synchronizing what we call the motor neurons, which is basically the neurons going to the muscles. So again, that is when we're visualizing, we're creating a more efficient way to recruit whatever it is we might want to be recruiting. So, and that also goes in alignment with positive thinking. And I might have that. Yeah, and I think I'll talk about this a little bit later also, but you know the saying, you are what you eat. You also are what you think, okay? So when we start to alienate certain parts of our body, or we're talking negatively, or we're judging our own movement, it has an effect on it has an effect on everything, on our inner systems and on our movement. So again, just inviting in self-compassion and non-judgment in your movement and your everyday tasks and whatever you're doing. And visualization can help that as well. Okay, so meditation. We have hopefully all heard of it. Thanks to some new agey things in the past couple of decades, it's become more researched and a bigger deal, and is being implemented in more places. And every time, I'm just going to backtrack here. Every time I read about meditation, I've done a lot of research with it, but there's always something that blows me away with it. So this is just kind of a nice refresher. I know that some of you might know a lot of these benefits already. I just want to read you the definition from Headspace, which really resonated with me. They say, meditation isn't about becoming a different person, a new person, or even a better person. It's about training and awareness and getting a healthy sense of perspective. You're not trying to turn off your thoughts or your feelings. You're learning to observe them without judgment. And eventually, you may start to better understand them as well. I feel like this really relates to movement as well. We're not necessarily going for this super beautiful, perfect movement. We're just trying to listen and better understand our body and learn from our body. And it's baby steps, baby steps, baby steps with improvement and with listening to our body. So okay. So here are just a few, let me backtrack, sorry. Just a few of the benefits of meditation. Sorry, I'm fiddling with my screen here. Okay. So meditation, it increases your memory and your learning retention. It also helps with attention, concentration, and focus. It can decrease symptoms of depression in some studies by up to 46%, and it reduces anxiety by up to 31%. It decreases fear, it helps with anxiety, and it decreases stress. And when I say stress, they're measuring some of your stress hormones like cortisol, epinephrine, decreases that by about 12 to 33% in a handful of studies. So those are big percentages. These are big changes that we can use to help calm our nervous system. So let's see. Yes, why is stress important? So when our body enters into a stressful state, stress is always talked about with a negative connotation because it can be not very useful in a lot of occasions. However, we have those triggers of stress in our body for survival mechanisms. Okay, they're there for a reason and they're helpful for a reason. However, when we're overdoing it, as I think much of today's society is, increase stress in your life can increase heart attacks and strokes. It can suppress your immune system. It can increase your blood sugar levels. So none of the stuff that we really want. So when we're trying to do this mindful movement and do our movement practice or meditation or go to the gym when gyms open up again, grounding and centering and dropping into your body is always a really good first step, because healing and recovery and movement can't come when your body is in what we call your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight and flight nervous system, where you're kind of on edge. Healing requires your calm nervous system, which is what we call your parasympathetic nervous system. It's your rest and digest nervous system. So whatever we can do at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, before a movement practice, whatever we can do to drop our nervous systems into more of a calm state, the better that blank, fill in the blank, is going to be. The better your movement, the better your day might go, the better your morning might go, the better a meeting might go. So yeah, being sure that you're grounding before you're entering into some kind of a movement practice can be really helpful. So the types of meditation, there's a lot of different kinds of meditations, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with. We're just going to be going over a couple of these today, primarily breathing and the body scan, and then we're going to just briefly talk about the other two, progressive muscle relaxation meditations and daily task meditations. All right, let me just, okay. So talking a little bit about breath and breathing. So we're going to be talking about the types of breath and a few different kinds of breath, and we're all going to practice together. And I would love to have spent more time on this. However, Stephanie, who presented on Thursday, is going to have a whole session. I think it's next session on breath. So I also encourage you to go to that as well, but this will be a good intro for that. Okay, so 3 kinds of breathing for the purposes of what we're talking about today. Chest and neck breathing, okay? So this is typically shallower breathing that happens in kind of our upper chest and in our neck. we're using our accessory muscles, meaning the muscles of our neck and upper chest, to breathe, as opposed to our diaphragm, which sits right under our rib cage. So if this kind of breath is the only breath that you have access to right now, maybe depending on your injury, that's fine, and we can work with that. Let's see, but just knowing that we eventually want to see if we can bring that breath a little bit deeper and lower, and if we can't do that, we're just going to try and slow the breath down a little bit. So actually, let's maybe walk through this one together. So I'm just going to have everybody, whether this is your natural state, if you're aware that you're a chest and a neck breather, and if this is not your natural state, I'm just going to have everyone try this. So I want you to just breathe. It can be through the nose or the mouth, whatever feels more comfortable right now. And I want you to try to use your neck muscles and your upper chest to find that breath. Okay, so you might be feeling things in your shoulders. You might be feeling it's a shallower breath. Again, if this is all we have access to, this is fine, and I'm going to give you some tools to still be able to calm your nervous system when we're chest and neck breathing. But for those of you who maybe just did that exercise and aren't used to it, it maybe felt a little bit unsettling, or it maybe even just felt like your breath was quicker and more shallow. So I'm going to click through these. So the two other kinds of breath here, so we have posterior lateral rib breathing. And what that means, just a fancy word for breathing into your rib cage, and I'm hoping you all can see me on the side of your screen, breathing into the side and the back of your rib cage, okay? So if you're able to, putting your hands on the sides of your ribs or the back of your ribs. I kind of like to do this motion here so I can feel the back and the side. If you're unable to reach your ribs there, you're just going to drop into your senses and invite yourself, what would I be feeling if my ribs were expanding right now? And when you inhale this time, I want you to try to expand your rib cage in a three-dimensional direction. Widening the rib cage on your inhale, and then notice how it naturally shrinks back together on your exhale, almost like a corset would. So inhale, you might be noticing that rib cage is widening, and then on your exhale, it's coming back together. So this kind of breathing we use when we're working out, when our heart rate is up, when we're doing some kind of more of an intense movement. And it might also be the kind of movement you're doing, the kind of breathing you're doing when you're lying on your side or when you're lying on your stomach, because there's nowhere else for the breath to go, okay? The third kind of breathing is a diaphragmatic breathing. And this is the one, for purposes of this session today, that I really care about the most. So being able to, just gonna adjust my camera, being able to put your hands on your low belly, basically right over your belly button. And we're all just going to practice a few breaths like this. You can close your eyes if you'd like. In fact, if you're able to, I'm going to have you put one hand on the chest and one hand on your low belly. And as you inhale, I want you to see if you could fill your low belly with air first. So just as when you pour water into a vase, the vase fills from the bottom up, I want to see if you can do that with your breath. So we're trying to drop your breath. We're trying to access the lowest lobes of your lungs. And this will help drop you into your rest and digest nervous system. So as you inhale, can you surpass your chest hand and just feel that breath into your low belly hand? Let that belly push out with your inhale, and then you'll feel that it naturally drifts back in with your exhale. Try not to force this. Try not to, less is more here. Less is more. So you're just feeling if you're able to find that diaphragmatic breath. Okay, maybe just taking one more breath like that. Yeah, and I see people trying that. That looks awesome. Okay, and then we'll open the eyes and relax. And then if you were able to access that, you're just thinking to you're just doing maybe just another little body scan here. Does my body feel different? Better, the same, different, worse, whatever it might be. So what we're trying to do is access most of these. We're trying to access the posterior lateral rib breathing and the diaphragmatic breathing to find this three-dimensional breath with our ribs. Sorry, that's for posterior lateral breathing. And we're trying to access the diaphragmatic breathing when we're in a relaxed state, because it activates our rest and digest nervous system. I also want to talk about how healthy that is when we can get that diaphragm pumping up and down. It's also giving a little bit of a massage to our organs. So you're basically doing a form of self-release, which we'll get into later in the class, with just diaphragmatic breathing and breathing into your low belly. As you can see in that photo, the belly, when that air pushes out and the diaphragm drops down on your inhale, the organs come with you. So the organs kind of get squished down and then they come back up. It's almost like this jellyfish movement with your diaphragm and with your pelvic floor. So when we have this healthy flow and movement, the organs are getting a little bit of a self-massage in there, as well as your lymph system. Doing that diaphragmatic breathing can also help get the lymph system pumping a little bit more. All right, so let me, and just kind of a fun fact here. This one blows my mind a little bit. So for the natural person, we breathe about 20,000 times a day, 20,000 breaths a day. Each diaphragmatic breath, if you have access to that, moves your kidneys. Your kidneys are the organ in your low back here. Moves your kidneys about 3 centimeters, which means on a daily average, if you're doing that diaphragmatic breath for most of the day, your kidneys are moving about 500 meters a day. Okay, that's a lot, and that's really healthy for the organs to get that movement in as well. Okay, so we're going to practice a few of these breathing meditations, but before we do, I just want to briefly touch on nasal versus mouth breathing. So as I was saying with the diaphragmatic breath, nasal breathing is not going to be for everybody, and we're going to offer, again, some tools where if you're having a hard time nasal breathing, we're just going to stay with mouth breathing. But if you look at the structure of the mouth and the structure of the nose, the mouth was made for chewing and speaking. The nose was made for breathing. So if we can stay with nasal breathing, especially when we're doing this mindful movement and this meditation, and if you can even extend it longer into your day as you're doing your daily activities, great. We're staying more in your rest and digest nervous system. We're filtering out germs. Excuse me. We're humidifying that air because the nose has kind of a natural warmer and humidifier in it. And we're stimulating something called a compound called nitric oxide, which is the thing that helps trigger your rest and digest nervous system. This is also a super important compound. It prevents high blood pressure, lowers cholesterol, keeps your arteries young and healthy, which prevents all of the bad things that I was kind of referring to earlier. So just being able to nasal breathe, even if it's just for a 3 to 5 minute period when you're meditating, then that's going to be super beneficial for you. Again, it doesn't mean that we can't access some of these benefits with mouth breathing, but for those of you that have access to nasal breathing, just inviting yourself to try to do that a little bit more. Alrighty, so now we'll get into some of the breathing meditations. So we talked about some of that diaphragmatic breathing, which we've done already. And I want to try a new one with you called box, or maybe you've seen it as square breathing. So you're going to inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4, and we're going to repeat. And we're just going to do a few cycles of that. And then I'm going to have Erin jump in and tell you about stacked breathing for those of you that are having a hard time staying with that 4-second rhythm. Okay, but we'll start with the box or the stacked breathing. So you can come to a nice, comfortable seated or standing position. You can close your eyes if you'd like. And you're gonna try to stay with my pace here. If you can't, don't worry about it. Maybe you're doing 3 seconds. Maybe you can extend it and do 6 seconds. But otherwise, we'll try to stay with this 4-second pace. Okay, so when we're ready, I want you to start that inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Okay. We'll open the eyes. We'll just assess again how the body is feeling. For those of you that were able to do that, awesome. If you're practicing this at home and that was easy for you, I encourage you to increase the amount of time you're doing each of those, especially your exhale. Exhaling for longer than inhaling is going to help with some of the benefits that we were talking about earlier. Awesome. Alrighty, I'm going to have Erin jump in and talk about stacked breathing.
Okay, so this is a modification of what Rachel was just showing you, and this is something that I use a lot of times. I work mostly in a hospital at this point, so for people who have other respiratory illnesses, this is a way for you to kind of access the same benefits, but just a little bit of a modification. So if you were having a hard time doing that steady 4-second inhale, breaking it up to 1 to 2 second chunks. So let's try this all together. So breathing in for 1 to 2 seconds and hold. And then on top of that again, 1 to 2 seconds and hold. And then repeat that 4 times. So you're breathing in little bits at a time, pausing in between each one, and then still filling your lungs to that full capacity if it's difficult to do that full steady 4 seconds. So let's try it all together again. So breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, hold, 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 and then slowly release as slow as you can. And then for those of you who are having trouble breathing in through the nose, think about that you're kind of sucking air through a straw. So purse your lips. And that just creates a little bit more pressure to kind of help you keep your lungs open as you're slowly doing that. So just an easier modification if some of you are having trouble with the slow full second, 4-second breath. And then whenever you're done with this, just breathe normally too for a few seconds, because this can be a little bit uncomfortable for people sometimes. So just slow, regular breath after that. All right, back to you, Rachel.
All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and what Erin, I just want to emphasize what Erin said with the slow breathing with the pursed lips, as if you're blowing out a candle, is a really good way for those of you that might not have access to the nasal breathing. That still can help calm the nervous system. So yeah, that's great. All righty. Oh, let's see. Am I here? Okay, sorry everyone, give me 1 sec here. Here we go. Okay, so talking about the version of a meditation that is the body scan meditation. This is the one I encourage, along with breathing, most if not all of my clients to use in an individual setting, in class settings. I use it personally all the time. So the biggest thing with these kind of meditations, kind of like I mentioned in the beginning of class, is to notice and not judge, okay? So you're just doing you're taking inventory of your whole body from the inside out. You can move top to bottom, bottom to top, And whatever you're feeling, whether it's positive or negative for you, you're honoring that sensation, you're thanking that sensation, and we're trying to avoid that alienating language that we sometimes use. I had one client that I used to work with where he'd always say, you know, he'd get really, really frustrated with his legs because they would spasm and they would kind of throw his balance off. So he was using some harsh language around his legs, and I just encouraged him to invite in a little bit more gentleness and to not think of a body part as, to not get angry with something that might be causing pain, discomfort, throwing your balance off, something like that. And inviting that curiosity in, inviting some self-compassion in. Remember, we are what we think. So if we're always alienating a part of us, then how is it going to work for us? So yeah, just trying to take the judgment out of that as much as you can. So things to notice for a body scan. And these are also just, each one of these bullets can be just a different meditation within itself. I'm going to walk everybody through just a short body scan meditation, but these are just ideas for you to come back to tomorrow, the next day, whenever you want to watch this again. So we can think of superficial. So what are we feeling on our skin? All the way to deep. What are we feeling? How does our temperature feel? How does our breath feel? Are we able to drop into our blood and our heart beating? Can we feel our muscles, our connective tissue? Can I feel my digestion or what's going on with some of my organs? Can I sense what my bones feel like? That might sound kind of wacky, but it's possible to do. Can I even sense something called your cerebrospinal fluid? Okay, so you're just seeing how many layers you can drop and how deep you can sense into your own body. Noticing your body posture and alignment. We're going to talk more about posture and alignment in one of the next sessions, but noticing your relationship to gravity. So whether you're seated, whether you're standing, whether you're on the floor, what parts of me feel heavy? Where am I leaning? How does my alignment feel today? Yes, and then also noticing, these are the parts of my body that feel good. You know, my elbows and my wrists feel pretty good today. My neck might be a little crunchy. And then also noticing what areas of your body feel quiet. What are you having a hard time even dropping into? I can't really sense my low back today, or I can't sense my right hip today. And then thinking of it in terms of certain body patternings. So is one side of your body speaking to you more than the other side? Is one diagonal? Maybe my right shoulder to my left hip is speaking to me more than the other side. Okay, noticing my head to tail connection, just meaning my head in relationship with my pelvis, my tail. Can I sense those? Can I sense if they're moving with each other or if there's an imbalance there? And then how are my hands and my feet feeling? Again, if there's a lack of sensation in any of these areas, you're just inviting in curiosity. And then your senses, so more coming from the outside world, smells, maybe what you're seeing, what you're hearing, all of that. Okay, so let's do a short body scan meditation here. So I'm going to have you again come to some sort of a seated or standing upright position. I'm going to invite you to close the eyes if that feels right for you. And I first want you to notice your breath. I want you to notice where it's coming from. Is it in your chest, your neck, your ribs, or your low belly? And I want you to drop into the top of your shoulders. And how does your neck feel right now? And feel free to wiggle any of these parts of your body if it helps you sense it more. How do your shoulders feel? Is your upper, your mid, or your lower back speaking to you in any way? How do your wrists and your hands feel right now? Can you sense that? Can we feel anything going on with our organs? Can we sense where our rib cage is in our body? Can we sense where our pelvis is in our body? If you have access to the sensations in your legs, how are your legs feeling? Your knees, your ankles, your feet. Invite in curiosity. Can we feel the blood pumping? Can you hear your heart? Let's take one more inhale, one more exhale, and we'll open the eyes. Awesome. Okay. So I'm curious, and maybe hold on to some of these comments, but I'm curious how that was for some of you. If there were any new sensations, new surprises. That was just, for time purposes, that was just a really quick example of a 1.5 to 2 minute body scan meditation you can do. We didn't even get into all of the examples I gave, but just exploring that and playing with that a little bit more. Alrighty. And then the other kind of meditation we talked about, or I want to talk about, is mindful movement with your daily tasks. So some of you might already be doing this, but there's one of my favorite movement professionals I follow. She's a biomechanist. Her name's Katie Bowman. She uses the phrase stack your life. And she uses this in a lot of examples. But how I want to use it is doing mindful movement and meditation and exercise doesn't have to be this thing of, okay, 5, 10, 30 minutes that I'm setting aside in the beginning of the day. If that is unreasonable for you, you can pull all of that into whatever you are doing. So some of you might even recognize a couple of these photos. The one of Riley Poor Gardening is from the New Mobility magazine, and then there's a man, Rob Hodge, who is cooking, who's one of the owners of a restaurant, I think it was in Philadelphia. And how can what your daily tasks are, whether you're outside or you're inside, whether you're eating or you're gardening or you're cooking, instead of thinking about all of the other things, how can we be that kid under the parachute that is just focusing on the task at hand? How is my alignment when I'm cooking? How can I hold this hose? How can I play with this hose more so it challenges me? Or how can I hold it with nice, stable alignment? So again, just in stacking your life, inviting those tasks into your daily life, and being more mindful of what your body is doing on a day-to-day basis. Okay, getting into some fun self-release techniques. So the goal of self-release of some of these techniques, I'm going to give you a handful of these, is we're trying to create more space for our nerves, more space for our muscles, our fascia is connective tissue, for our diaphragms, just meaning the kind of horizontal shelves, if you will, of the body. That could be pelvic floor, diaphragm, floor of the mouth, your bones, your fluids. So how can we create more space in general in your body to enhance your connection? Connection being that kind of vague word for feeling and sensing a movement more. So that might be sensation, that might be movement, that might be not being able to do a certain daily task. So whatever that might be, we're just going to try to create more space in there. And we're also going to try to drop from your fight and flight nervous system into your calm nervous system, your rest and digest nervous system. We're going to do that in a lot of these self-release techniques by stimulating what we call the cranial nerves. So you have spinal nerves, which is the nerves from your neck down. We have cranial nerves. We have a set of 12 cranial nerves in our brain that stem from our brain. So if we can target some of those nerves that help trigger our rest and digest nervous system. It's going to drop us into a good state where, remember, that's where healing comes from. That's where movement comes from. That's when our body is really listening. Yeah, so we're finding, so noticing as we're doing a lot of these, we're trying to find the sticky, the tender, the restricted areas of your body. So just really dropping into that a little bit more. So this first slide is focusing on one of your cranial nerves called the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, it's one of my favorite cranial nerves. Meaning the nerve that wanders through your body, because it's also your longest cranial nerve. This slide is going to be based off of, I just want to give reference to something called the polyvagal theory, which was developed by a doctor, Dr. Stephen Porges, in the early 1990s. And the idea is what I was saying on the previous slide. We're just trying to target this cranial nerve to help calm the nervous system. Okay, so make sure you've got some space around you, because we're going to be moving our upper body and lower body if you're able to. Okay, so the first one is nasal breathing, which we've done already. So we're just going to skip right through this. Okay, so I'm going to have everybody hum. You can hum a song, you can hum a single note, but I want you, if you're able to breathe in through your nose. And when you exhale, find a hum. You're going to bring that hum as long as you can to the very, very end of your hum. When you need to inhale again, preferably through your nose, it's okay if it's that sipping straw through the mouth. And then you're going to hum again. And I just want you to do this 3 times. You might notice this nice vibration happening through your throat and your chest. And just seeing how long you can take that. And when you're done with that third one, go ahead and relax. Great. Next one is a toe and a finger rub. So I'm just going to start by showing you the hand rub. The foot rub will look exactly the same. And for those of you that have access and are able and safely to do the feet, maybe you can do that another time, but we'll just stay with the hands for now. So I'm twisting each of my fingers as I would twist a bottle cap on and off. If grabbing your finger is hard for you, you're just going to rub. You can rub with your hand, you can rub with your knuckles, you can rub it on your knee, you can rub it on anything. You're just maybe doing 5 or 6 twists on each of your fingers, back and forth. We've got meridians that run through here. And we've got the hands and the face that take up almost over half of the motor cortex in our brain. So doing anything to stimulate the hands, the feet, and the face can also be really beneficial for dropping into the rest and digest nervous system. Yeah, and you can keep going through those. Just for time purposes, I'm going to keep moving here. So a belly rub. Okay, so hands are going to come to the belly. You're going to move your hands in a clockwise direction. This is the direction of digestion. So this will aid with digestion. And you're just moving your hands in a circle. You can do knuckles. You might need a caretaker or a friend or someone to help you do this. But you're just breathing and you're just finding this nice circular belly rub. Can be as deep or as superficial as you want. I usually stay pretty shallow for this one. It usually makes my stomach talk to me a little bit, and that's always a good sign. Okay, neck and throat rub. You might often notice that people, when they're stressed out, will grab their neck like this. Okay, it's a natural, we do that for a reason. So it's kind of a natural calmer. So grabbing, again, hands or knuckles, or you might have to have a friend help you out with this. And you're just gonna do a gentle pull and traction from back to front. Okay. You can even go on the sides of your neck from top to bottom, following along that big muscle we call your sternocleidomastoid, and just following that using your pinky side of your hand, your knuckles, but this is gentle. We're not looking to do anything aggressive here. Okay, trapezius activation. So for those of you that are able to shoulder shrug up and down, just doing this and finding your breath. So you're just shrugging up and down, finding your breath. For those of you that can grab your forearms and give a pull, so I'm pulling my arms out wide to activate some of those areas in the mid back. And you're just holding and releasing, doing this a few times. Yeah, Franklin, I know I'm about to go over. I just have a few more points on this slide. We'll probably skip the last slide. Yeah. Okay, tongue movements. So I want you to stick your tongue out. And then I want you to swing your tongue in a circle. Don't worry, we can't see you. Let that tongue go. Moving it from side to side. You can even stick your tongue into the side of your cheek, one direction, hold for a few seconds, and then other direction, hold for a few seconds. Okay, I think there's just a couple more. Face movements. So I want you to make funny faces. So scrunching up your face, moving your face around, moving left to right, smiling, frowning, moving your eyebrows, moving your cheeks, moving your jaw. Yeah, good. Awesome. Good. And then just giving a wiggle and a shake. So whether you're seated or standing, just letting everything go. You're noticing where you're holding tension in your body. I'm just going to give a couple more that aren't on this slide, but are on another slide. You're going to take your hands to your jaw and give yourself a gentle pull from your cheekbones down towards your lower, your lower jaw. You'll notice that there's this, maybe for most of you, this tight band of tissue here. And you might have to have a friend help you with this also. And just really noticing maybe a difference in side to side, any tension that you're holding in that area. Okay, good. And then I just want you to reassess. How does your body feel now? Can we quickly run through that self-assessment we did at the beginning of the session, okay? So let's see, we started, I think, with some cervical rotation, so just turning your head left to right. And I want you to compare from the beginning of the session how all of these movements feel for you. Raising the arms overhead. Whoa, that got way better for me. Noticing if there's a difference there. Remember, ease of movement, range of movement, side to side. Oh yeah, I skipped one, I'm sorry. The shoulder shrug. Has the shoulder shrug or the shoulder circles gotten any easier for you in any way? Thoracic rotation, so hands crossed or in front of you, rotating the center of your chest from left to right. If you're a standing athlete, maybe you're doing some squats or some single leg balance and you're assessing that. And you're just taking note here of what changed for you. And we'll talk about this. We're going to go into questions in just a sec. And I just want to invite you all. Oh, sorry, everybody. Let's see. Okay, I just want to invite you all to sense, to feel, to play, to explore, and to get curious, okay? Invite in that childhood-like quality, invite in a dog-like quality, get curious about your body, yeah, and enjoy your movement explorations. Awesome, I'm sorry everybody, I know I went over a little bit. Thank you so much for joining. Here is our contact information. I'll let Franklin maybe take it from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel and Erin as well. As you can tell, Rachel is never short on content or information. She could be doing this for ever and ever, which is why we broke this out into 6 sessions. And speaking of sessions, the next one is going to be on Saturday, August 22nd. And the topic is morning stretch routine. So she'll be getting into range of motion and stretching. Again, Saturday, August 22nd at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. What is the ideal frequency that you would suggest for this type of meditation to occur?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you can every day, then every day. It can look like you setting aside a chunk of time, and that can be whatever is available for you. I usually give myself about 25 minutes, 20 minutes to do a meditation, 5 minutes to do a quick journal. But if that amount of time, or even setting aside time, isn't accessible for you, like I was saying with your daily task meditations, make that your mindful movement meditation. So as you're cooking breakfast or as you're eating, can you really be thinking about the taste of the breakfast, the smells, the sensations, how your body is moving when you're cooking? So every day, I guess, is the perfect in a perfect world. And if every day is hard, pick one activity a day. That can be as long or as short as you want, where you're really dropping into your body.
Okay. Next question. I have a C1, C2 injury level. How can my caregiver best assist me with some of these routines?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with anything that I was doing with myself, whether we were doing hands or belly rubs or dropping into that, you could do a couple things. You could stay with some of the movements that were more, oh, awesome. Thanks, Franklin. Okay. That were more breathing or chest related. Just want to make sure. Okay, great. Shoulder shrugs, if that's there for you, the face and the tongue and all of those movements, and to pull your caretaker in, doing, the jaw rub, or having your caretaker do some range of movement, which is going to be our next session, and even doing any kind of a comparison for maybe some of the range of movements. For some of the stuff where we were rubbing the hands, you can have your caretaker do that for you. You can even have your caretaker place their hands on chest and belly, or neck and chest, as you practice some of this breathing. So yeah, in any way that I was doing some of those things to myself, having your caretaker kind of take the place of that. And if you've got like a specific example of how would I do this movement, or specifically this meditation with the caretaker, then feel free to type in the chat box. But in general, doing what you can, neck and above, and then having that person help you with everything else. Yeah.
Okay. And everyone, just keep feeding questions to the chat box if you have any. Next question is, I have a hard time staying focused. I get distracted easily. Any suggestions?
Yeah.
Hard time with that too.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're so not alone. Oh, I love that question a lot. Yeah, and that is where the piece of non-judgment comes in. So, and these are, if any of you have listened to YouTube video meditations or headspace meditations, they're always saying when your mind wanders, just invite it back in. Easier said than done. And I think there's also that component of, again, inviting in self-compassion. Okay, a plane goes overhead, and then my mind has a billion thoughts of the plane going overhead, and 10 minutes later, my timer on my phone goes off, and I'm like, oh, crap. So when you notice your mind wanders, you're trying to bring it back in. And I find that just doing that body scan meditation to ground and center can be a good way to kind of start over again. And I promise it gets easier. So the more you practice this, remember, meditation and mindful movement and dropping into your body, it's a lifelong practice. We call it a movement practice because you practice it for life. So yeah, just being kind to yourself, knowing that the mind is going to wander, but maybe dropping back into the body when you have found that it does wander. And I promise it gets easier over time.
Maybe those noise cancellation headphones, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also closing the eyes. So if your eyes are already closed and your mind is wandering, but if your eyes are open, taking away, I mean, and Franklin, that's a good idea. Taking away some of your senses so that you can really tune into the body more can be helpful. So closing the eyes, ear canceling, yeah, that might be helpful.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so that brings us to the conclusion. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Erin, and thank you everyone for tuning in. As I mentioned, this session has been recorded, so we'll make it available next Tuesday morning. You will all receive an email from us with a link to the YouTube sort of version of this. And again, on Saturday, August 22nd is Rachel and Erin's next session at 11 o'clock. And again, we'll be promoting that in the newsletter, as well as there'll be a link in the email that you'll be getting from us next Tuesday. Again, this presentation was made possible by a grant from the Re Foundation as part of NorCal SCI's sort of virtual is the new reality. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. And thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Erin, again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everybody. Hope to see you next time.
All right.
Thanks,
Goodbye,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.